Coach Hudy, thank you so much for your time. Super excited to be talking to you. For the listeners at home, will you tell us a little bit about your background, kind of your motivation, and where you are currently?
My background is I was an athlete, played all kinds of sports in a competitive family, and was always trying to play catch up with my older brothers and sisters, so they were always training. So training became a part of my life. So that's kind of how I got introduced to sports performance training. And I was a pretty good athlete, so you do what you're good at, right?
Yeah.
My motivation, I think, as I've, was competition as an athlete, but now as an adult outside of competition, it's teaching. And then currently, where am I currently? I'm at the University of Texas, Austin.
Okay. And then to tie into that motivation question, right? I think that also motivation can also relate to our success, right? Because we have to have a goal in mind and be motivated to work towards that, right? So in simple terms, what's kind of your definition of success, and how do you kind of see that through in your day-to-day?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of people have said that I've been successful as a coach, and I always say that I've worked with really great athletes and great coaches and great athletic departments that support what the athletes do. But how I define success is making the best of every opportunity that's ever been given to me. Whether it's, take it and you learn something from it. If you fail, you learn something from it. But always doing the best I can with an opportunity that's been set before me. So it's kind of like the definition of mental toughness. Everybody wants to talk about mental toughness, but really, what is it? And I talked to a neuroscientist one time, and she said, you know what, Andrea, mental toughness is the ability to forgive yourself when you don't hit your goal, and to be able to come back and do better and the next time.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love it. Okay. And so let's dive in a little bit of your past and kind of your background, right? So you've been at UConn, you've been at KU, you've moved around and you've done a lot of cool things. So how has kind of like your time at UConn set you up for KU, that has set you up for Texas? And how has that all kind of worked in succession and even before that?
Yeah, I think how it's all set up is I feel like I keep getting put into these places where the leadership is absolutely wonderful. So there are great leaders, and they know that they put the student athlete first and the success of the student athlete. So it's very much a teaching environment. I always say the difference between coaching and teaching is wins and losses. In teaching, though, we don't get any wins and losses in the weight room. What we do is get results. So if we can get results in the weight room, then we're doing the right thing. In terms of how UConn set me up for my future was that I worked for two Hall of Fame coaches, Jim Calhoun and Gino Ariema, but there were also some great coaches there in field hockey, men's soccer, women's soccer. There was great leadership in the administration, and then also right down the hall, I had the fortunate I was fortunate enough to get Dr. Kramer, who was right down the hall from me. Carl Marish.
That's fantastic.
Dr. Armstrong. So all those guys to bring science, coaching, and sports and athletics and sports science together. That's all we've ever done.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's quite the lineup there, huh?
Oh my gosh. I was so fortunate. I was in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful with the experiences and the people that I've worked with.
That's fantastic. Okay. Will you talk a little bit of how you kind of transform the strength and conditioning department at Kansas? I feel like, from your time, your tenure there, things have been drastically different in a positive way. Can you speak on that a little bit?
So when I got to KU in 2004, I bet it was probably one of the biggest weight rooms in the country. And it was 42,000 square feet. And there was a lot of equipment in it. It was primarily designed to be a football weight room, so I struggled with that a little bit. But when football, they moved out in '08, they won the Orange Bowl. I sold over $100,000 worth of used equipment.
Wow.
And we created a space that everybody could use, every sport could use. That it had space. It had movement space, and we had platforms. But the key to selling all that equipment was that it gave us the opportunity to then purchase some pretty cool technology in the future, which was Sparta Sport Science and then Elite Form. And we got those pieces of technology because we thought it was important to not necessarily give. It helped us make decisions on what we could prescribe for exercises in the weight room versus reacting to what was going on the court or the field.
I love it. Okay. And so kind of moving forward a little bit, right? How has your experience as a female strength coach in a primarily male-dominated position been? And then to add to that, how is that juxtaposed between being, you just kind of mentioned it, with Olympic sports being kind of seen as lesser than football, and how have you kind of managed all of that?
All right, so the first question was being a female
in
a male-dominated profession. Yeah, I think, it has its advantages and disadvantages. I don't look at it as that, as I don't look at it as a male or female athlete. You just look at them as an athlete. Now, I can't tell what people look at me and what they judge by me by looking at me. I can't control that. But the one thing that I can control is how I respond to a certain environment. So, I mean, I deal with that, and I think everybody's got their challenges. I don't think it just because I'm a woman. It could be, I have 3 degrees, so what makes you strong? It's not just physical strength; it's mental strength, it's fortitude, it's attitude. Education, experience, and do we come across some obstacles? Absolutely, but that's just where grit and determination and perseverance come in. You try to get better.
Yeah, I love that. And then the second part to that, right? How have you kind of managed being in an Olympic sport, and even though basketball is kind of a more primary sport or a more revenue earning sport, if you will, how have you managed that being kind of belittled in across the profession? I feel like in terms of like football being put on the forefront.
I don't care who the athlete is. They could be a football player. My vision has always been whoever walks in the weight room is my priority. It doesn't matter what sport they play. It doesn't matter what coach. I'm in a service-oriented kind of profession in some ways, depending on the time of year. And whoever it is my priority. I think I have a Orange Bowl pendant. I've worked with football. I deal with it. I dealt with football at UConn. I dealt with it at Kansas. I'm not dealing with it here, but I just look at the athlete. It doesn't. I just do my job.
I love it. Okay.
And I've had football players in the NFL come work with me. So I know I have something to teach.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay. So diving a little bit more into the training piece, right? So what, this is a super broad question, but kind of what is your training philosophy?
I have it written down in a portfolio. I can read it to you word for word. But my training philosophy is, can we make the athlete perform better while keeping the injury rates lower? So as they get better and become higher performers and get more minutes on the court or, more innings on the field or whatever it may be, can we increase their performance and can we increase their health while they're doing that? Because I think there's a really big dichotomy going on there because, performance-wise, you're trying to build this machine, but it gets pretty sensitive. Right, and then we just have to make sure that health is a priority too.
Okay, and then generally speaking, what?
So I guess in terms of philosophy, in terms of how I train, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. So whatever way works best in whatever situation. So I'm not locked into one philosophy. But we do look at ground-based movements and weightlifting style movements with powerlifting movements and plyometrics and things like that.
Okay. So just drawing from all areas,
Absolutely,
Fantastic. Okay. And so diving a little bit more into that, right? What does your general annual plan for basketball kind of look like?
Now I'm going to put it generally in 3 parts.
Okay.
The first part would be in the summertime, where it's a load-based program, and fatigue really takes. It's not a priority. Fatigue management is a priority because we're trying to develop strength and get them, this work capacity and volume, and try to build them up to, when they get on the court, that I hand them a good product that's a good reactive athlete. So it's load-based, and again, that's kind of where the fatiguing part of the workouts come in, and that's 8 weeks in the summer. So then once we get back to school, they turn into stimulating types of lifts, so we're kind of a velocity-based range where we're lifting medium to high loads, and trying just to push the velocity to increase power output.
Okay.
And that'll last for, potentially 7 or 8 months. And then in the championship season, we call them recovery workouts. So whatever we have to do to make everybody feel like they need to compete or they want to compete. So whatever that is involved. It could be a workout for somebody, but it could be a recovery session for somebody. And then after the season, we look at health, and all we're just trying to do is make them feel good.
Yeah.
And we kind of cycle through that.
Okay. I love it. Okay, and that's kind of how it's been. Have you used that kind of same structure like at Kansas, kind of at UConn, or is that generally, have you kind of adapted that since you've progressed?
It's grown. It's been dynamic. We get better and better every year, for sure.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. No, that's a good point. We're always progressing, always learning, always making little tweaks. Even if like the general structure is the same, you can always improve stuff. So I like that answer a lot. Yeah. Okay. And then moving forward with that programming and training, right? What's been the biggest change to your programming style with that kind of 4-hour rule change in basketball?
Really probably for the last, let me think, probably since 2000, 7 or 8, I've been lifting. We do these stimulating lifts before practice. So they don't have to be an hour long. However, I've always reacted to the coaches and what the coaches are doing, because basketball's always been driving the program. So I'm not driving the program in the weight room, right? We don't get points for lifting a lot of weight or technique or whatever. So I've always reacted to what the basketball program gives me. And I learned that at UConn because, we would normally lift after practice. And then I was like, well, there's no training effect because they're so fatigued. So we kind of switched it around at KU. And, now at Texas, we're lifting before practice to offset the high volume reactive reps that are happening on the court to promote health. And then, we're doing stimulating lifts so they're ready for practice.
I like it.
So we don't just sit around for 10 or 15 minutes and stretch. Those days are gone.
And that's it's really nice to be able to have that give and take with your coaches too. So that's really awesome that they're on board with that, And then moving forward with that, do you have any big differences in terms of how you program for bigs versus guards?
No, what we're looking at is, the coaches that I've worked for in the past, defense is important. So they're playing man-to-man. Zone hasn't really been a part of it. Now, have we played zone? Yeah. But we're looking at developing a lateral reactive athlete, one that, can change direction pretty efficiently and be healthy with that. So some of those bigs tend to have that reactive kind of profile. I would tell you a lot of the bigs that I've been handed haven't had that. So they're doing more of a performance-based type of workout where the big guys tend to hinge a lot. Like they haven't had to be reactive because they've been big, and they just have notoriously just kind of, it came naturally to them to just stand there and just be big, right? Where the guard game is a little bit different, where they have to develop that reactivity. So For the most part, that's what our goal is
Mm-hmm.
to develop a lateral reactive athlete, no matter how tall they are.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times it takes a little bit more strength training with those guys that are 250 pounds that
Mm-hmm.
aren't able to withstand, they don't have the leg strength to run and jump really well.
Mm.
So if we can develop that, then, they're healthier,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. No,
And
that's awesome.
higher performers.
Okay. And then you had mentioned, Elite Form and Spartus over at Kansas. What kind of technology are you able to utilize at Texas?
Well, right now, so we're changing a little bit of what's going on in the weight room. So
Mm-hmm.
we're getting platforms.
Okay.
Within the next month, we're getting Elite Form.
Mm-hmm.
Texas has had Sparta.
Okay.
We have Shot Tracker,
Okay.
Catapult. So what
wow.
we're going to do is really try to tie all those things together to see if we can find some trends in some athletes to see where they're responding best to the program and where we can make tweaks to the program and where they excel and what they do really, really well at and expose that.
Okay. No, that's awesome. I mean, anytime you can get a little bit more information to help drive decisions, that's always helpful, right? If it's utilized correctly. So that's really awesome that you guys are able to make that change and be able to connect the dots.
But we also don't want paralysis through analysis
True.
either.
Yeah.
So we gotta be careful with that.
Yeah. No, definitely. Okay. And so how have you been able to, or how has what has been your approach in terms of like energy system development, and how has that looked kind of across the board with basketball?
I think that reactive strength is really, really important. I've had people that can't run a mile, but they could play 10 games a day and be really, really good at it. I think when you look at that energy system, you got to look at body typing too. So who does what well? So can we all I would tell you those mesomorphic athletes, the ones that carry a little bit more muscle, tend to be really good at rate of force development, which would be really good at short, quick, energy systems. Where some of those guys are long and lean, they tend to last a little bit longer. And I think it kind of you look at the individual and the body typing, and that will give the energy system for sure.
Okay. So in to pull on that thread, right, just to dive a little bit deeper. So with those body types, do you give them obviously if they're prone to one thing specifically, how do you manage the training balance in terms of like giving them the opposite or really capitalizing on strengths?
Yeah, well, we just look at it as healthy reps. So we look at performance reps versus healthy reps. Some of those guys that are so good at torque that they're developing, like a Derrick Rose, so fast, and then their body can't handle it, right? So then they're so prone to injury. So some of those guys, if they carry a little bit more muscle mass, then maybe they'll do a little bit more recovery. Maybe they could do 3 healthy repetitions of something before they do 1 performance set. Or the long, lean guys tend to, in my history, and knocking on wood, haven't been as injury prone as some of the mesomorphic people. And then, some of the ectomorphic people, or I'm sorry, endomorphic people, they tend to, we just need to get them stronger and, be able to withstand the workload.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's a good answer. Okay. And then moving forward to kind of the tail end of some of this training piece, right? X's and O's are really important, but there's more to coaching than X's and O's. But if you had to like say one piece of advice to a young coach in terms of like the programming, the X's and O's, that kind of stuff, what would you say?
That's a great question because I look at younger coaches now. I've been so fortunate to work with some of the best coaches. It's just unbelievable in terms of what they can bring out of their athletes and how hard they can push their athletes, but develop relationships with them too. Because rules without relationships is rebellion. So you have to be able to connect with a kid, but you also have to hold them accountable. I see so many people letting the kids drive the programs and letting the kids make excuses, and it's like, no, that's not teaching to me. That's never been teaching to me. That's never been pulling out the best of anybody. Because kids want to be coached. They're different, and somehow you need to figure out the best way to coach somebody. But I don't know. Maybe I'm too much of a stickler. I'm old school, but I appreciate being old school because I know that I'm going to get results, and when somebody walks into the weight room, they know the standards and they know the operation and they know the expectation. There's no question.
Yeah.
So old school's good for me.
Yeah, I like that. I think that needs to be. I think there's a lot of good things that have come up from the new school, but I think some of that, the systems have been lost. There's some tried and true stuff, and there's a lot of great things in that old school system. So I think some of that needs to be reintegrated into some of this new school mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, awesome.
For
okay.
Sure.
And then moving forward a little bit into some more leadership, continuing education kind of stuff. Will you talk a little bit about, let's say, the entrepreneurial side and some of the books and book sections you've written?
Yeah. I think the more what I find really interesting is I'm at a place now at the University of Texas where this is the first job that I've had that I actually work with one team. Right?
Yeah.
So I've worked 25 years to get to this point.
Yeah.
And now people are coming into this profession and they're just working with one group of people or 12 people or 20 people, and that's all they have. And the one thing that I know that I've developed, through repetitions of no matter who the athlete is and learning about people and understanding them, I think to dovetail off that last question too. So what I want is I want coaches that want to coach reps no matter who it is.
Yeah.
I don't need a fan, I need a coach.
Yeah.
So in terms of entrepreneurial stuff, as the 25-year career has developed, I've found myself in corporate America talking about being a woman in a man's world and how you deal with that. I've written a book. I speak at performance conferences. I had my own clinic in Kansas and at UConn.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different avenues, right, that you can use. And then that ended up, I just finished my MBA in May.
Congrats.
To try to understand how to manage all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that was a really good experience too.
That's fantastic. And I think the more that we diversify as coaches, right, the more value we can provide. And then, it raises our profession up as a whole. Like if everyone was doing some things or trying to strive toward what you've accomplished, right, like our profession would be in a different place, I think. So
yeah, it's a lifelong learning thing. I have a curiosity for movement and mechanics and people.
Yeah. So that's a great kind of segue into this next question. I know we're getting close on time here, but what is your approach in managing your staff, right? How does that differ from like volunteer intern all the way up to like an assistant strength coach?
I want, again, if somebody, I get numerous requests for internships, but what I do like to find and filter out is, are people being persistent? Like, are you just applying just to apply and maybe hoping to get it?
Yeah.
Or is this a place where you really want to be? Because if this is the place where you want to be, you will find it and you will make it happen. I'm not going to make it happen for you.
Let's go. Yeah.
And so I want to hire people who want to be here and be in my system and be around us. And I don't need sports fans. I want people who want to coach.
Yeah.
And I want people to be able to get uncomfortable with relationships and getting uncomfortable with exercise and putting yourself in a situation what the athletes are going through. I think it's hard to be a coach and not know what they're going through, or ask them to do stuff you've never done.
That's probably one of the, I think, that's a huge one, right? People are programming things that they've never even experimented with before,
Right.
Like that.
There's an authenticity in that, because it's like, well, no, I'm asking you to do it because I've been there, I've done it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, most definitely. No, I like that. Okay. And so what general recommendations would you have in terms of leadership?
So I think, my thoughts on leadership have changed as my career has developed. It used to be I would lead by doing. When I was 22 and working with Kansas or UConn men's basketball team, I had to run with them. And you develop a respect just by doing what they're doing. And you know what? Maybe they picked me first versus picking me last, because I actually could run, and I
Yeah.
ran hard.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to let anybody outwork me.
Mm-hmm.
To, jump forward now, I would tell you, one, I know what works in terms of leadership, but I also try to put myself in somebody else's shoes and lead with empathy a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then getting kind of close to the end here, moving forward with professional development for young coaches, right? We talked about the application and kind of some of the personal qualities that you might be looking for when hiring. What are some of the application qualities you're looking for, like as far as resume tips, cover letter, or references?
Yeah, that's a great question too. To be honest, I really don't read cover letters.
Okay.
And you usually hire people that you have heard about or know.
Yeah.
So I think developing relationships with people and just always trying to get better, but always trying to be. I'd rather hire a good person and somebody who can develop relationships and has good emotional intelligence, because then we can teach them the skill sets that we need and what to look for.
Yeah.
So I want to hire good people.
Okay, I love it.
Good teachers.
Yeah. What are some resources that have had a big impact on you, whether it's like a book, a podcast, or conversation with somebody?
I draw from the experiences of life, I would say. You can pick up these championship culture books and you can read those books, but unless you're part of it, living, breathing, every ounce of your being in that, it's hard to implement. It's just talked about then.
Yeah.
What we need is people who want to do it. And I always talk about, here, it's like it needs to come from the athletes.
Yeah.
It needs to be their environment, and it needs to be their championship culture.
Yeah.
We can tell them.
Yeah.
But it needs to come from the athlete, because we want them to be so involved in the development of the team and the good of the team that there's no reason that we should even think about losing. Everything should be about winning, because we've already prepared to do that.
There it is. Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's huge.
Yeah, it's over preparing, right?
Yeah.
And again, I love people, so I love to talk with people, ask them questions. Sometimes I might ask too many questions, but I learn from my failures too.
Okay.
Those are the biggest lessons you get.
Fantastic. And then last question here, I know you got to go. What projects are you kind of currently working on, and how can people kind of reach out to you and follow your journey?
The projects that I'm working on currently is, learning the new system here in Texas.
Yeah.
With Texas men's and women's basketball, putting together a new weight room and getting the technology down, and just trying to create this championship standard of operation in the weight room, and preparation for games, nutrition, every aspect, because all those things affect force production, and what we're ultimately trying to do is create the most consistent force-producing athlete on a day-to-day basis, so they can develop skill, so that then they can compete on the court.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. And then,
so that's my project.
Yeah, that's quite the project, right? I love it. And then how can people kind of reach out to you and follow your journey here?
Wow, that's tough, because social media-wise, when people reach out to you, you never know, you don't know them, so you're not sure who to trust and whatnot.
Sure.
So that's a hard one.
Yeah.
I would say email is the best way.
Okay.
And that's hudy@utexas.edu.
Okay.
So again, the social media one's hard, because you never know what somebody's going to do with your response or something like that. So that's hard.
Fair enough.
Although I would love to. I'd love to reach out to everybody. But it's hard.
Plus, it's a lot of time too, because it's so accessible now that everybody can just click on it and send a message without any thought or any
Right. Oh, and I get overwhelmed with it, and then I get to a point where I'm like, I can't even read it anymore.
Exactly.
So,
just got to withdraw. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, Coach, thank you so much for your time. This has been such a pleasure to be able to finally talk to you. I've heard such good things about you for so long, and so to be able to connect with you has been fantastic. Thank you once again, and hopefully we can connect again soon in the future.
All right. Thanks for having me.